This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today is the president of Rockridge Resources, Mr. Jordan Trimble, along with Rockridge's CEO, Mr. Grant Ewing. Grant, Jordan, good morning to the two of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We talked a bit off air. I mentioned that I think copper is a coiled spring. The gold market seems to be getting more and more robust. I expect copper to follow along if we can get a trade resolution with China. We all know that trade wars are unsustainable, but in the meantime, I think Rockridge shareholders have a lot to be thankful for. The least of it is the latest assays, right? You hit some high grade again at Knife Lake. 15.2 meters that included 2.45% copper equivalent. As important is that it starts at 5.1 meters downhole, so it's shallow. A lot to get to. Let's get to it. Let's talk about the results, and then let's talk about what happens next.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're very pleased with the results. Again, we continue to hit more high grade at the project in the deposit area. Very shallow. Again, most of the historical work and all of the drilling that we've carried out, mind you, it's only been just over 1,000 meters in 12 holes, but it's all within 100 meters of surface. So high-grade copper mineralization and some other metals that were intersecting. It's important to note, and we talked about this with the last results that came out, that there's a combination of confirmation drill holes, but as well expansion drilling. And a number of these holes that are high-grade results are in zones of the deposit that were previously untested or had very limited amount of drilling. So we expect these higher grade results to have a positive impact on the resource. It's a historical resource, so what we are doing next is an NI 43-101 resource estimate. We're looking for a July release date on that. We've just been talking with our technical team on that over the last few weeks. But getting back to the drill results, quite happy with what we've hit here. 15.2 meters of about 2.45% copper equivalent, again near surface. So great results. That's on the back of what was our best drill hole, which we announced a few weeks ago, and we talked about. That was in the third hole, and that was quite a spectacular hole where we had just over 13 meters of what amounted to just over 5% copper equivalent. So very, very high grade, very good results. And so this is all segueing, as I said, into the 43-101, followed by a summer exploration and field program. We're just putting the final touches on that right now, so we'll have news flow on that over the coming months, and we'll likely start that program after the 43-101 is issued, and that'll carry us right through into the fall. So lots of news flow coming up over the coming months.
Grant, with your background, I would love your take. You have to be excited because when we spoke last time, you mentioned that a part of what attracted you to this project was obviously the high-grade nature of it, but the fact that you believe that because it's a VMS deposit, this may represent a remobilized portion of what should be a larger primary VMS deposit, right? I mentioned that these things tend to happen in clusters. Can you speak to that a bit?
Yeah, and that's really one of the exciting things about this project. We have the Knife Lake deposit. This program has successfully repeated assays and that we had 20 plus years ago, and also shown some growth to the deposit. I think one of the exciting things about this project is the fact that VMS deposits often occur in clusters. This project hasn't really had any deep exploration at all beyond sort of the 200-meter range in depth. So we see great potential in reviewing the entire land package and testing some of these priority targets we've outlined. The depth potential, as well as near-surface potential in some areas, still exists on the project, certainly.
Excellent. Jordan, you touched a bit on what's next. Can you just summarize for us briefly there?
Yeah, so as I said, 43-101, that's going to be a big milestone for us because that really gives us something to work with going to potentially larger companies, potential strategics, having that in hand, showing, what I think is a good starting point for this project with a resource, a 43101 compliant resource, and it's near surface. As you're well aware, this project we see having a lot of upside potential and discovery potential. The history where you've had a lot of historical work in drilling, but not a lot of work at all in the last 20 years. And that historical work was very much just focused at the deposit area. So there's still, really just scratched the surface. There's still a lot of potential to find either satellite or clusters of deposits, VMS deposits, and in particular, as Grant was just talking about, the depth potential. And what we're looking at there, we believe this to be, it is a remobilized VMS, and so we believe it could have come from a deeper source, a primary source, and there's this theory of an overturned fold lens. So this part of the deposit, it's been overturned. We see it near surface, but at depth, there's indication from previous drilling that there's mineralization at depth, and with more drilling and some more work that we're planning to do this summer to refine those targets, I think we could potentially have new discoveries on our hand with future programs. So look forward to, obviously, the 43101. That's going to be a big news release, and that is a big milestone for us, followed by the summer program and news flow generated from that, and then future drill programs on the project.
Well said, Jordan. Gentlemen, you've hinted at the fact that obviously the 43101 can serve as a major catalyst to be able to present this project to mid-tiers and majors. Now, it's no secret that there's been several developments, new players in the area. Could you briefly just explain, for those that are new to the Rockridge story, kind of the area play that's kind of setting itself up here that may provide you that very realistic opportunity of catching the interest of one of these majors that have moved in?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just bring Grant back into this discussion. As Grant's history over the last several years, he's been successful in selling a few junior mining companies. He's been involved with a few discovery stories that have had success and then ultimately been acquired. And so Grant will be important in these proceedings going forward. But having the 43101 and having a resource there that is 43101 compliant, I think will allow us to attract some interest from some other groups. And I'll just note, as we've talked about before, reiterate some of the recent activity in the Flin Flon camp just south of us at the McIlvena Bay deposit and project, owned and operated by Foran. There's a partnership there with Glencore, the largest commodity trading company in the world. They've just recently issued a new 43101 resource estimate at the project, and it's quite impressive numbers. And then over to the east on the Manitoba side, you have Hud Bay, obviously, has been the big company in the Flin Flon camp for many, many years. They made a recent discovery at their Lalor operating mine, a new high-grade discovery at depth. So that's really reinvigorated the story there. And then last but not least, another smaller cap company called Rockcliff, again, not to be confused with Rockridge, has recently announced and closed a $30 million bought deal from private equity group in Europe called Greenstone. And so we've seen money come in for the advancement and development of these VMS deposits, even with smaller companies. So that's quite encouraging for Rockridge. That shows that there's big money coming into the space. And I think Knife Lake, as really our first stepping stone in terms of our project base, I think it's going to serve us well, especially when we get the 43101 out, and especially as we continue to advance the project over the coming years.
Grant, Jordan mentioned your experience with majors and monetizing assets in the past. Can you explain to people what mid-tiers and majors look for when they consider, joint venturing or earning into a base metal project of this nature?
Yeah, certainly, Gerardo. One of the key attributes I think that majors look for at all times when dealing with the juniors is the team assembled, is the team quality. I think at Rockridge we certainly have that. We've got highly technical people doing the field work for us, and a great, well-rounded board. The project quality, of course, is very important, and as Jordan alluded to here, we're in a historic district that has produced several world-class deposits, and the area we're exploring in is certainly underexplored. So we see great potential in attracting attention just by that fact alone.
Fantastic. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. I'm looking forward to chatting again soon, and obviously looking forward to that resource estimate so we can get a better handle on what we are working with and what the future looks like as far as exploration goes.
Perfect. Thanks, Gerardo.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.